Oh, Tekka's gone. Show it, Andrade. What a goal.
I think coming Fernando on the 6-yard line. 99th minute. 9 minutes of injury time, and Gabby has won it for Stretford Paddock.
Shot a goal. Oh! Wow!
And that is that. Stretford Paddock, first piece of silverware. Tony Downs Memorial Trophy.
Hello, you're listening to the Stretford Paddock Fans Podcast. I'm joined tonight by Stu.
Good evening, everyone up the paddock.
And joining us from Dublin, we have Shane.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thanks for having me. And yup the paddock.
This is episode 7, and we have got a lot to cover. It's only been a week since the previous episode, and a lot has happened, mostly good. And we're going to get stuck into that. But Shane, this is your first time on the pod, and you just got back from a trip to watch us play against Lim. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that and the experience to let other people know what it's like to visit the paddock. Maybe you could just start with an overview of how these trips get organised.
It's not anything fancy now. It's very sort of, we have a group chat. We're in the Irish Supporters Club, and all members are in there. And then basically we'll look at the fixture list. Let's say, we see this Lim match, and we'd be always looking at the weekend games. And then simple as check the flights. One person would do it. Sometimes it'd be me, sometimes it'd be others, but oftentimes I'd like to do it. And then if I see reasonable flights, like say 15, 20 euro each way, I'd go for that. And I'd say, look, lads, I'm going to go to this. Here's the flights. Anyone coming? And then whoever wants to come then books the tickets. And then we then sort of have a little sort of a side group chat that is for people who would have go to the games. And we then just coordinate in there. But it's very simple. We'll all go on the one flight, or maybe the 6 a.m. flight and then the 10 a.m. flight, and we'll then meet up somewhere, have a few drinks, then we'll then go to the match. Obviously, now this was my first time in Hyde. Normally, the previous matches I'd gone to had been in the Butcher's Arms in Droylsden, but still, we went, and that's the way it goes. And then after then, we'll more than likely stick around at the end for chit-chat with all the guys, the eclectic bunches I like to call them. And then we just go from there and then back to the airport, and then we'll then chill around the airport and then fly home, and then that's the day.
So that's a 6 a.m. flight. So what time is that? Does that mean you guys are waking up to come and watch the game?
If you take the 6 a.m. flight, for me, I live close to the airport, thankfully, so I'd be waking up at about 4ish. Get to the airport for 4:30 because I live about 30 minutes away. But for other people who aren't as fortunate, that could be, they could be up at 3 a.m. if we can. And if the price is very similar, I did it this time. I took a 10 a.m. flight, much better. It meant I was up at 7:30. It was a far more enjoyable, shall we say. But it all depends. Because if there's a big, like, let's say if the 10 a.m. flight is like 50 euro one way, and the 6 a.m. is 15 euro, we're taking the 6 a.m. flight. But it all depends on the flights, and it's a matter of, when it comes to the flights, we always go with Ryanair because you won't get anything cheaper. But then it's trying to plan it when United aren't playing, because if Man United are playing, then the ticket prices are way up, because you'll have a lot of people who'll be going over to Old Trafford. So if you can get a weekend that's either an international break and United aren't playing at home and City aren't playing at home, then you'll be able to nab flights for 15 euro each way, and then you're paying less than 30 euros, about £25, let's say, for your flight over and back. Can't go wrong.
So who did you come over with, Shane? You had quite a decent following with you this time.
So normally when we go over, it would be maybe max, we would have had, say, 4 of us maybe. Now this time we had 5, and in a way it was quite an enjoyable experience, because there was 2 of the guys that came over and it was their first match. So there was me, there was Sean, and there was Chris. We've all been to a game before, and we knew each other through Stretford Paddock. I got another one of my friends, Cormac, involved, so he came over, and then another person who is in the in the supporters club, Gideon, he came over as well. So the way it worked was myself and Gideon, came over on the 10 a.m. flight, and then my friend Cormac and then Chris went over on the 6 a.m. flight. Cormac and Chris had a great old time wandering around and nearly wearing the soles out of their feet. And Chris almost missed his flight as well. The flight was at 6:10, I believe, and he had only woke up at 5 in the morning. I don't know how he managed to do it, but he managed to make it on time. That was quite amusing, and that meant his Whoop went super stress mode. So then, yeah, he sent that into the group chat, and we were like, "Holy crap, what happened?" But yes, so they went over. Then I went over with Gideon at the 10 o'clock one, and then Sean, he came over, and he was over at the Crucible for the snooker. So then he came over and joined us. Now, it always happens whenever Paddock play. There's always, between whoever's going over, there's always something that happens. Whether it be one time I went, I think it was one of the first times I went over, I forgot to check back in on my way out. So when you don't check in time before the 2-hour cutoff at Ryanair, you have to pay for the privilege of it. In addition, I also nearly missed my flight because I had in my head that the flight was at 10 instead of 9. So that caused a bit of stress. So I was like texting lads, I got a taxi out, and I was texting them like, is the gate up or whatever? And I managed to make it anyways. So this time Sean had all the trouble because he got on a train from Sheffield. It couldn't go any further because the train ahead was on fire. Then he ended up getting an Uber, and then the Uber had a super long delay because there was just traffic. Now, they had a lovely Uber driver, and they managed to get there. It was an hour and a half journey, do you know what I mean? So it was sort of, it's never straightforward, but sort of that's the way we love it. It's just a crazy day. Always something happens, not by design, just happens. And then a lot of drink is had, a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, take in the paddock, meet all the people. Oh, I love it. It's incredible.
Shane, out of interest, obviously there's a few of you come over this time. Who were you? What was you most looking forward to? Was there specific players you wanted to meet? Was there, was you wanting to speak to Steve about anything? What did you speak about in the group chat that you really wanted to kind of like tick off that list to do?
There wasn't really a set sort of list to tick off, but I was looking forward to meeting the guys, like yourself included, Stu, because we met at a previous game and you were there with the kids, and it was great crack and very interesting, running around trying to watch the game while also trying to watch them, and just the sort of the family aspect of it. You meet people, and even if you haven't met them before, like, funny enough, I never got to properly meet and talk to the Notchmeister himself, as I'll call him. That's my nickname for him. Whether he likes it or not, it's my nickname, the Notchmeister. What a man. So yeah, we got to meet him for the first time, so that was exciting. It's always nice to have a chat with Steve. I went over for, was it the Droylsden game? I remember we played Droylsden in the cup thing, and we ended up losing, but they were 2-3 divisions ahead of us. But I was chatting to Steve, and it was great old crack, and it was during the Euros, I believe, because we were chatting about how Switzerland would knock out England, but that ended up not happening. But anyways, he gave me a lift back into Manchester, so had a great chat there. So I was looking forward to seeing him. But then I was also hoping that our Brian could get on the pitch, the first Irish player for Paddock. So I was chatting to him at halftime, and I was saying, go on, give the boss a nudge, go on, see if you can get on. And he ended up getting on, and then and then more or less just meeting everybody, and then also sort of meeting Gideon for the first time, and having Gideon and my friend Cormac, who I've known for years, having them sort of experience the atmosphere, the crack, the banter, all that. So there was many different things. There wasn't just one. I couldn't put my finger on just one.
And has the fan experience changed much since the last time you came? Because obviously the last time you came over, we were playing at Droylsden, slightly different team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is the experience different now, or has it changed in any way?
It is changed, and it's changed for the positive. And I think it's because two things. One, there's something about the stadium at Hyde. It just feels bigger, more spacious. Droylsden, it's like an older stadium, and like there isn't the same sort of, shall we say, terrace style standing area, like, the front concrete area where the hoardings would be, and a gap between the front row of seats and the hoardings. So there isn't that much of a gap in Droylsden. It's like the stand is quite packed, so you can only really sit. But in Hyde, like, you can, if you're over at the corners at the edge of the stand, you can just stand there, so you're close to the pitch, but then you're also not blocking the way of people, so you can stand, you can get your drink, and you can just, watch the game, chat away, as Stuart and I were doing. That's the first thing I noticed. And the second thing as well is that we've definitely had bigger crowds, and I think that's just down to the fact with the growth, more people coming out, and a more sort of dedicated group of people coming out who live locally. But then also as well, given how our season has been going as well, the fact is that we've momentum, and do you know what I mean? It's getting exciting. So I think that's also got more people out. So the atmosphere for the home game was the best atmosphere I had, because other ones there was a good atmosphere, but not as good. Do you know what I mean? This was by paddock stands, it was the best ever, and like, it was electric. It was great old time.
So we started the week knowing that 2 wins would see us promoted on Saturday. The first step towards that promotion would have been 3 points at home against Haydock midweek. And instead, we were left with a 0-0 goalless ball draw. Stu, you were at the game. Are there any highlights to cover, or should we just move on?
We might as well move on, man. It was frustrating. Like you say, it was building up to that Saturday game with Lim, potential promotion party to be had afterwards. And there's a couple of things I can say, but I'm not going to spend all evening talking about it, because we've got other fantastic things to talk about. But I'll start off by saying that the lads run themselves into the ground every single game. We know it was a ball draw, 0-0. The lads always give everything that they can to come away with the 3 points. So they threw everything at Haydock, and Haydock came with a plan. They executed it really well. It was 10 men deep in their third from about the 5th minute, and just the art of defending, I guess, as best they can in Cheshire Division 2. And let's give them some credit. They've taken a point from us in midweek. They took a point from us at the beginning of the season away at their place. They seem to do that really well, or take all 3 points from us, but they're really difficult for us to break down every season. And you look at how they've done against other top 4. I think they've taken 2 points from Mersey Valley as well, because they've drawn against them in both their matches as well. So they're not easy for anybody to break down on their day. And they came out, like I say, to play a certain way, and they got the point for it.
Yeah, I watched the whole game on Twitch with Liam, and you can definitely see how they take points off the quote unquote bigger teams, because they sit very deep, but when they break, they have some real pace, and the midfielders bomb forward. Like, they get everybody forward. I could see on a couple of occasions where they tried to catch us out, and they didn't manage to convert the chances. But yeah, for the most part, they were physical, disciplined, kept their shape. And I don't know whether that's just something they do against Paddock, or something they do against, the St Helens of this league, or the way they play most weeks. But it's worked to them for an extent, because they've got some points against the bigger sides this year. Not a great night for the fans that came up to watch. Not the greatest spectacle.
No, but like I say, we appreciate the team on the night running themselves into the ground. You looked at the likes of Damani, almost sunk on the floor come the 90th minute. I think he literally did collapse on the floor just to get his breath and his legs back. He'd run himself so hard, and he wasn't the only one. And they were devastated, the lads, with not getting the win. But back then we saw that point as an opportunity missed. I'm assuming we're going to be talking about how that point could be valuable in the promotion race as we move through the podcast.
Well, yeah, because what that result didn't do is take away the potential promotion party on Saturday, because we then had the Lim Rovers Mersey Valley game 2 days later, which obviously we have a very vested and keen interest in, which none of us were at the game. All we had to rely on were social media posts. But we knew in that game, if anything except a Mersey Valley win would leave promotion in our hands on Saturday, and we watched Lim surrender a 1-0, a 2-1, and a 3-2 lead, and end up losing the game 4-3 to Mersey Valley, which then pretty much stuck a pin in the balloon of promotion for Saturday, which killed the dream for Shane, who was hoping that Saturday was going to be the promotion party, sausage roll party, that him and the rest of the ISC could join.
I think we have to sit here and give credit to Mersey Valley. I mean, if it was any other team, we would. So you have to say that to come back from losing positions on 3 occasions in the same game to go on to win it is actually incredible spirit, incredible resilience, fortitude, mindset to be able to go on and get those 3 points against all those odds. So, no, well done to them guys.
Yeah, away from home midweek as well, which is always a banana skin for any team. Shane, were you following that match, like desperately supporting Lim to try and keep alive your promotion party hopes?
Absolutely, yes. I was following it. I wasn't following on social media on Twitter because I don't have Twitter, but I was following it in the Telegram chat. And I just was like in my head, I was like, please, 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 because I had a feeling that if we were that close to promotion, I knew that the guys would show up, and they would show up on Saturday, and they would put in a good performance. And the thing is that I just hoped and I prayed, and then when I saw it was 4-3, I was like, oh no, because it just then made me dwell on the 0-0 Boarfest that we could have won, and that sort of, not now, looking back on it now, it was a very good point. And further to what Stu said, they set up in a set way, they had their plan, and you know what? Fair play to them. There's more than one way to play football. It's not as simple as, oh, this is how you do it. It's all a matter of, putting the ball in the net. And if you can't put the ball in the net and you're playing against a side that is really defensive, and they take the point, and that's what they wanted. They got what they wanted. Unfortunately for us, that sort of was strike 1 down, and then strike 2 down being the draw or the win for Mersey Valley. But look, as Stuart said, fair play to them. Do you know what I mean? When you're away from home midweek and you come back several times, it does show that, they are a good team, and there's a reason why they've been up there all season. Looking back on now, that point against Haydock is good, but still, given how the weekend transpired, there still is that little bit of a disappointment, because there's only 2 reasons why, and you'll probably know, and if you've all listened to Steve, you'll know there's 2 reasons why there's going to be sausage rolls. 1, promotion with Paddock, and 2, the Glazers have left fully. So we nearly had one of the reasons, and that would have then been a sausage roll party. And if there was a sausage roll party after that game, it would have been carnage. And I've even said it I think I said it to you, Stu, as well, like at the game, I would have happily gone to Aldi, forked out a bucket load on cheap Prosecco, and then just given bottles to everyone, and we'd spray it around like we just won the Grand Prix. Like, I wouldn't care if I went back. I wouldn't care if I went back on the plane soaking, smelling of it. I couldn't care less. I was just like, that was my dream, and unfortunately it was taken from me. But it's it. Look, we didn't drop any points. We've stayed unbeaten for the last few games. So we're in good stead, and we still have it in our hands. So can't complain. However, there is that tinge of disappointment.
One of the things that really bugs me, and I'm not that easily rattled, but it's when social media teams go very quiet when they lose. It's like, I've noticed it a lot now, but obviously we were getting minute by minute updates of the Lim Mersey Valley game, and it was fantastic for us just in the group chat, like 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, and then it was just 4-3 for like an hour because we had no updates. And I think at some point Oatsy knew somebody at the game and he got the final score. But yeah, it's credit to Lewis. Even when we get pumped and we get beat, he'll post up the full-time scores for everybody. On a more positive note, we can now talk about Saturday, which I think is what everybody's desperate to talk about. So we've heard about your journey to the game, Shane. What did you think of the 9-2 win against Lim?
Fantastic. If there's one adjective that I have to use to describe, fantastic. I don't know what it is, but if we have a home game and the Irish Supporters Club, a group of us go, it just seems to, for whatever reason, oftentimes turn out good. I've had a few people say that we are bringing the luck with us, because that's my third paddock game. So my first game was a very good game, and then the second one was the cup match against Droylsden. But obviously we can discount that because they're 3 divisions ahead of us. However, it was just right. It was perfect, because my first game that I went to paddock was, what's our record score that we got?
10-0 Wigan.
10.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was my first game against Wigan at home in the Butcher's Arms. We beat Wigan 10-0. That was my first game. I was like, now I was hooked already on paddock, and I was like, well, geez, this is great. If I come over, it's like this every time. This is great. And then a couple of my friends, or a couple of the other guys came over. So for Gideon and for Cormac, it was their first game, and then they witnessed a 9-2. So, do you know what I mean? People are saying to us, can we come over every week? Now, whether the expenses will and our finances will allow that is a different story. But if it was possible, we would. But the fact is that we've brought good fortune and good scorelines and plenty of entertainment with us.
Stu, I want to get your opinion on the game, but first I wanted to share some thoughts that Steve Howson gave to me. I spoke to him earlier today, and this is what he had to say about the 9-2 win.
9-2 suggests an absolute chasm between the two teams. And realistically, yeah, there was on Saturday, but there isn't a chasm between the two teams in terms of quality, I don't think. There's some good players in that Lim team. They had a tough game on Thursday night. They would have been tired legs. I think they played the same 11 on Saturday. Criminal from the league to have to put 2 games so close like that. But I don't think the fitness mattered in the slightest, actually, because I think they came and tried to keep it tight. Obviously didn't work. For the first couple of goals, at least. After that, I think they tried to gamble and put it on us, and they was leaving 4 against our 4 at the back. Can be an effective technique, but our press was so good. The focus was so there. There was such good controlled aggression from the paddock lads that it wasn't going to happen. And then we got the third, and then we got the fourth, and I don't think they realised that we even had a goalkeeper on the pitch until it was 7-0. So I was a little bit annoyed with how sloppy it got at the end, but I guess human nature, it's going to get a little bit sloppy. We made a lot of subs, some players like Tommy that hadn't played for a long time, so and Sam that hadn't been part of the first team for months. So it's inevitable, and actually I don't know if either of theirs was their fault. I mean, the second goal, possibly the best goal anyone's ever scored against Paddock. What can you do about that? Guys absolutely stuck it in the joint. But brilliant win. Brilliant to see the club's only ever Irishman scoring a free kick, which I didn't know he had that in his locker, I'm going to be honest. Good to see club's only Irishman getting a goal in front of the Irish Supporters Club. That was fantastic to see. Fantastic to see the commitment from the Irish Supporters Club as well, getting themselves over.
All right, thanks for that, Steve. Stu, what did you make of the game? 9-2, you must have been a very happy man.
Very happy, absolutely ecstatic. What a difference a few nights can make from the team. I mean, we knew that they were going to come into the game hyped up, ready to do the business. They've got supporters from all over the country coming in, and they know what they've got to do. There's one goal, and that's win the last 2 games, and Lim was the first one of those 2. For us who follow the Cheshire Division 2 really closely, even though we really smashed them a few weeks before, 4-0, they didn't have a couple of their best players. The goalkeeper has been injured, so they had a standing goalkeeper. So you don't know what you're going to get in the follow-up a couple of weeks later, especially when their players are available. I will add, Steve Howson was full of confidence. Didn't care who was playing. He said, "We're gonna win today." That was before the match was started. But for me, because I guess I follow all these players on socials and stuff, and I follow the top scorers. I look into it a little bit deeper, and I'm just a little bit more apprehensive about being so positive early on. But the lads absolutely annihilated, didn't they? Against Haydock a few nights before, there was a lot of forcing football to happen, trying to take on 3, 4, 5 men on either wing. trying to force shots through, trying to force passes through to the channels. Against Lim, it was all free flowing. There was a lot of switching, two-touch football, successfully getting it through the channels. Mike Taylor was on his groove, spraying the ball around wherever he wanted for the likes of Damani and Joa and to run onto. Cam stood out once again for the intensity that he brought to the game. And of course, Sam Pratt got his hat-trick, his first hat-trick for Paddock. I think when we're trying to, again, be fair about the state of play coming into the match, Lim had played less than 48 hours earlier in a match that they had to win to try and stay in the promotion race. So they have obviously emptied the tank against Mersey Valley, which they lost. Of course, they're going to come in a bit leggy into a game like this, but Paddock can't take nothing away from the way they set up, the positive attitude they came into it with, because they still had a lot of pressure on their shoulders to do the business. They knew that people were coming across from Ireland, and they did it. They did the business. The staff were fantastic again, getting the lads hyped up and getting them in the right mentality, getting them warmed up correctly, and they put on one hell of a show.
I think mentally it must have been quite difficult for Lim as well. Like, not just the fact that, physically they'd played less than 2 days before, but like we mentioned earlier, they'd thrown away like being in a winning position 3 times midweek. They'd obviously played Paddock 2 weeks ago and got beaten on their own pitch, so they knew it was a real struggle. Plus, they went into the game knowing, unless there was some kind of mathematical, ridiculous situation where Mersey Valley lost every game by 5-0, they were going to finish outside the promotion spot. So it was a lot to ask for Lim, I think, to get something in that game. But let's not forget they are a very good side. And I think it was even evident in the game on Saturday. They had very good players. They had moments of magic, which I'm sure we'll touch on. Before we go into more detail about the specifics of the game, because there's so many moments we could cover, I just wanted to share the thoughts of Notch, who was also at the game. So Notch said there was not one bad performance from anyone. He said the whole team was on point and he could not pick a man of the match. He said half a mark off for all the players that pied Florin for having one of the penalties. Classic Notch.
Shane was talking earlier on about the luck of the Irish coming across. It's less luck now, isn't it, if it's becoming a theme? But Notch just seems to bring it with him as well. He's saying that not one player had a bad game, but he seems to know that whenever he comes up, they're not going to have a bad game, because he's now taken his tally to 9 wins in 9 whenever he's attended. So yeah, we've got some fantastic themes going on here with people attending and getting the wins.
Yeah, I think that's the record, isn't it? We've got a few people claiming they've got like 100% win record. Yeah, Notch is 9 out of 9. That's pretty impressive.
With about 100 goal difference.
Yeah. So talking about the goal difference that Notch has witnessed, Sam Pratt obviously counted for 3 of those at the weekend. I think from my perspective, it's been long overdue. Like, how many podcasts have we done, Stu, where we talk about Sam Pratt worked his nuts off, Sam Pratt put in a real shift, and Damani probably got the 2 goals. So it was nice for Sam to finally come away with the goals that his performances have deserved.
100%. I think every single member of this team, like I said earlier on, put in all the effort. But when you watch Sam, he gives everything as a number 9 up the top, trying to close everything down, win the duels, whether it's in the air, on the ground, getting the tackles in, backing his teammates up when there's a bit of a rough stuff going on. And he deserves his hat-trick. I mean, if Joe Coleman was sitting here, he'd probably be saying, well, that first one knocked off his foot and went in. Didn't know much about it. Probably trying to play it down, and probably rightfully so. I think Sam was a bit surprised. But, you've got to get yourself in those sorts of positions for it to fall nicely for you. And he got his just desserts from many weeks of putting in the graft and getting 3 decent goals to get his first club hat-trick. Well done. Congratulations.
The backstory to that is, of course, that Sam scored a hat-trick and Joe got man of the match. So I think there was a bit of a social media back and forth about whether that decision was correct. But what I will say is Joe Coleman's goal was spectacular, and I have watched it back multiple times, and it has to be in the conversation now for goal of the season.
I would agree. I will say, though, is that there will definitely be a contest or disagreement, because Mike is not having it. He's just because Mike is going to bring and he'd asked me as well, but I would agree with Mike in that case, is because the significance of the goal. So obviously we were when that goal went in, we were obviously cruising. But when Mike's goal went in, that was the winner. So the symbolic or the symbolism of that goal and how important it was to get the 3 points. The 3 points were more or less already in the bag by that time. But the fact that Mike's goal got the 3 points, I think that would edge it. However, in terms of technique, incredible technique. I think just sort of more the impact that Mike's goal has had on promotion. Do you know what I mean? That probably would be something that may edge it, but still both incredible goals, and they can fight about it and bicker about it, but both incredible goals, incredible technique, and we're not going to complain.
If you're going to play the context card, though, I mean, you've then got to throw Zach Bell, the winner against Mersey Valley, into the ring, and then it's all three of them are back fighting again. So,
Well, that would be funny to watch the three of them fight. Have a gladiator spar, and I think Mike is just gonna just come in with his pint, and he'll just settle it all and win because he's some man. And just speaking of him, sorry to go off topic, but like when we arrived and Gideon and Cormac, it was their first game there, and like they'd watched bits and pieces, but they hadn't been able to see like a full live game, and then they got to see the way that Mike plays, his technique, his movement, range of passing, all that. And they just like my friend Cormac, like he watches football and he just was like in awe. And I'm like, literally, this man, like and what makes it better, and I think everyone agrees that because of his frame, it makes it look so much better. Do you know what I mean? And it's like incredible to watch. And like it was an honor and a privilege to be able to watch that. And then he comes off a half time or 50, 60 minutes or whatever. And then he's sitting with the rest of us, then having a pint like.
I did
Like
watch the
the
game
dream.
back yesterday, and at the end of the game, obviously people spill onto the pitch and go and celebrate, and I just saw Mike just wandering on the pitch with like half a pint left. It was brilliant. I was like, this guy was bossing it
That's
an hour ago. There was one more goal that I'm surprised you haven't mentioned it already, Shane, which is Brian's free kick. That must have been a personal highlight for you and the rest of the ISC.
Oh, now, as I alluded to earlier, I spoke to him at half time and was chatting away to him because he was obviously one of the subs. So he was kicking it out with the lads. And then I was chatting to him. And obviously then, I was chatting away saying, where I was from, and we all introduced ourselves, where we're from in Ireland, where he's from. And anyways, so then from there, then I was like, go on, give the boss a nudge, ask, can you get on the pitch? Do you know what I mean? And then, hopefully you can score your first goal. Well, lo and behold, he gets on the pitch, and we're like, well, this is good, fair play. He's got on. We get to see our guy, which was fantastic. Then Paddock get a free kick, and then Brian standing over, and we're like, all right, fine. And basically, and I was beside Stu at the time, and he can confirm. I said literally, because I had like my I don't drink alcohol, but I had a Kopberg non-alcoholic, and I had it there on like not the fence, but the top of the railing on top of the hoardings, and I had it there. And basically, I literally said to Stu, if this goes in, like it's going up in the air, like. And Stu was like, okay, yeah. But Stu, I don't think probably thought it was going to go in. He was probably thinking, oh, it's not. But anyways, it went in, and it hit the post. It was a beautiful technique, hit the post, and everyone went in. And I just screamed like a madman. I had my phone in my hand, and I was texting my girlfriend at the time because she had asked me how everything's going. So, and then anyways, because the goal went in, and I was in such shock. I was beside Stu, and I dropped my phone, and then I ran like a madman possessed. And I ran down, and I hopped over people's legs, like slalomed in between people. And then I ran over to where the rest of the lads were. And then Brian came over, and then I gave him a hug, and I just couldn't believe it. I was just I was just absolutely like buzzing. And then I was like, crap. Oh my God, my phone's back there. So then I ran back to get my phone. And then in picking up my phone, then it was in a WhatsApp message or whatever, and I sent loads of WhatsApp gifts to my girlfriend, and like sent like it's Thursday and all this random stuff to her. She's like, it's not Thursday. What is going on? Are you all right? So yeah, that was quite funny. So then I just called her in later. I texted her in to explain what happened, and then yeah, she was like, it's grand. But yeah, so there was a bit. And if you go back and watch the highlights or the socials that the club put up about Brian scoring, you'll see me run there like a madman in my like red hoodie, like just I went crazy, and even Stu will agree, but so worth it because the technique on that free kick was so good. Like, and I was talking to Joe after, And Joe's like, I mean, I was thinking of getting it, but like he was there, and we were like, okay, fine, we'll let him take it. But then he was in, he said like he just zoned in. He just was like boom, zoned in, and then poof, beautiful free kick in off the post. Keeper had no chance, and even the keeper dived, he wasn't saving it. Like it was just perfect, right over the wall, dipped down nicely. Yeah, insane, incredible. So yeah, it was I think that was one of the goals that got the biggest cheers. I think as well, just because it was his, like, his first goal as well, and in front of the Irish traveling fans, like, oh, that was the highlight for me. Obviously 192, but that was the highlight for me. Incredible.
I was stood next to Mick as well. Shane was on what left-hand side of me. Mick was on the right-hand side. And for people who don't know Mick, he goes to every single game. He's one of the OGs, along with Craig Howson, who was on here a few weeks ago. Shane's right. Brian seemed to tune in and focus at one point, but Mick next to me said, "Hit it, Brian." And it was kind of weird how it went from Mick said, "Hit it, Brian," and Brian seemed to turn, having heard that, tune in and smash it in. It was weird how that, I think he heard, just go for it. And he did, and he got the goal. It was a really nice moment, actually.
It just made it better because he ran to the fans as well. So it is that like moment where it just brought everybody together. It was celebrated like a 1-0 score, not like was it the 6th goal, I think Brian scored. And also it was really far out. Like it wasn't 22, 23 yards out. It was fully 30 yards in off the post. It was some hit. Speaking of some hit, there is one last point I want to make before we move on to something else. But Lim's second goal, for me, is better than all of them. Like, that goal, that might be the best. Like Steve said earlier, like the Lim goal was the best goal that's ever been scored against Paddock. It might be one of the best goals I've ever seen. Like it was that good. It was literally in the postage stamp in the corner of the goal. No backlift. He just hit it. I think it was out of. Remember that Wayne Rooney goal against Newcastle where he was just so wound up and angry, he just smashed it in the top corner. It was like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'll add, I think from my memory, it's the only goal that opposition goal that's got an applause from Paddock fans and Lim fans alike that were there. It was that pure, that cracking. Everybody cheered, everybody clapped for it. It was a brilliant strike.
I did too. I literally was sitting down with the lads at the time, and that went in, and he cracked it in. And I was like, literally, my first reaction, my friend Corb beside me, like, we were just like, what a goal. And I just stood up and just applauded. I was like, that is just a peach of a goal. Like, you will not see as good a goal ever, or if you do, you get that. That's one of those goals you get once a season. It's just a cracker that one could try it. I mean, a non-professional could try that, like, 99 times out of 100 and it wouldn't work. But that one time, it just, and he just hit it so clean, and Florian could do nothing. Like, no keeper saving that. Doesn't matter what level, no keeper saving that. It was just right in the meat. And when you have like on Soccer AM and you have the bins, the top bins, it literally was flying in there, breaking through that bin, the hard plastic of that bin, and then going right through the back. Like, if there was no net there, that was like going to probably damage a bit of the corrugated steel behind it or something. It was just a rocket.
I doubt you guys would have seen it at the game because I only caught it in the VO when I watched the game back. And when the goal went in, Danny Hugo at right back just walked over to the guy and shook his hand. Like he just said, fair play, that's some goal.
Chris said about Danny Hugo there, but come on, his goal was pretty special as well as a right back going straight up front and taking what did he do? He took it on his right foot with a touch, then smacked it in with his left foot. Yeah. Peach of a goal from Danny Hugo as well, coming from all over the pitch, all different positions.
Yeah, I didn't realise before, but Danny Hugo is actually a real leader, isn't he? Like you hear him like shouting to people a lot. Like you don't often see that with the Twitch stream because the pitch side audio is kind of diluted a bit because we listen to Liam more. But I watched it back on the VO, and yeah, he's like screaming. I think it was at Joa maybe just to come back and support, but. Yeah, he's definitely added something to Paddock since he's been in. And I think the lads said similar on the members podcast a couple of weeks back.
He really
Agreed.
is. Yeah. One weird Paddock fact. Danny Hugo is our right back, but used to play centre forward. He's a trained centre forward. So we've got an extra backup for Samuel Damani if anyone ever gets fingers touch wood, whatever, gets injured.
Well, the way he chipped the ball over the defender and played it in, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Danny Hugo's insane. That was like And like as well, I know one of the things that it didn't happen as much last season, and I think probably you could thank Danny Hugo for coming in and doing it, is like, remember Steve would always harp on about communication along the back line in particular, but he was bringing that communication. So like with himself, Zach, they were just, they were marshalling the midfield and the defense and sort of, kept us together as a unit. And it was really good. And like, I did not know how loud Danny was. It was insane. Like literally you could hear him, like if you were like over the other side of, like, let's say if you were way out at the entrance of the stadium, you could still hear him, like a booming voice. And that control sort of, and that guidance and that leadership, particularly, when it's a game like that where you could easily get complacent and it could easily get away from you. He was making sure everyone was like, on it, and definitely was a key reason why we managed to get over the line, but also, not stop and lay down. And funny enough as well, I think this performance as well, I think is sort of showed the difference that between this season and last season, because last season we probably would have lost that Haydock game, but this season we grounded out, we made sure we got the draw.
Chris is probably going to move us on in a sec, so I'll just finish off with this. Shane mentioned, obviously, we scored 9 goals against Lim, scored 0 against Haydock midweek, but Steve gave us an interesting fact yesterday at the Cup finals for the under-16s, where actually we had very similar shots on target between the two games. So it's just incredible how one game you can get your eye in and one game you can't.
Do we know how many shots that was?
Probably misremembering a little bit, but it was something like 18 shots against Lim and we got 9 goals, and 19 shots against Haydock and we got none. It was very close.
Well, of those 9 goals, I have one last question for you both. So obviously we've got Brian's free kick, we've got Joe Coleman's strike followed by Crab celebration, and then we've got Lim's second goal. Which was your goal of the game?
If you want on a pure technique, I would have to say the Lim goal. But if you're talking about sentimentality and that feeling, it has to be Brian's goal. I'm sorry, I'm biased, but like absolute like buzzing. Like I literally was like a man possessed. It was as if like, and that goal was celebrated. I think the others as well, like, were absolutely buzzing for him because it was his first goal. And it was as if the way that we celebrated that was as if it was a winner. Do you know what I mean? It was like your 4-3 winner against Mersey Valley in the 96th minute or something. Like that was the way it was celebrated. So for me personally, being biased and all, that would be my favorite goal. However, if you're going to look at it specifically on a technique point of view and goals you will see, it would be a toss-up between Brian's goal and the Lim goal, but I'd give it to the Lim goal just for the sheer quality. Do you know what I mean? And on a day when they didn't have, that much quality, that was just an astounding, excellent piece. So it was an exquisite goal. But yeah, so I'm going to sit on the fence because I want to say both of them, but I can't turn my back on Brian. I'm sorry, I can't. But then I feel bad for the Lim guy because he's scored an absolute peach and he won't score a better goal in his life, I don't think.
Do you agree, Stu?
It was Lim. Lim's goal was absolutely incredible. Joe Coleman's going to be fuming. He's getting some shade here for his great strike, but it's a game of some fantastic goals. So for me, it was a Lim goal. Chris, what about you?
I'm surprised at you guys because I expected you guys to be really partisan and just pick Joe or Brian's. But yeah, for me, the Lim goal, it might be one of the best goals I've ever seen. I'm not even, exaggerating that. It was that good. I've watched it back so many times. It's just the context as well. I think they were 7-1 down or 8-1 down at that stage. But yeah, for me, the Lim goal was the best goal I've seen for a long time at any level. Like, it was that good. It was really good.
If that goal that Lim scored, if that was scored in the Prem or one of the like professional football divisions, that would be a Puskas nominee. Let's be honest. Like, it would be. So that's why it's such a good goal. And obviously we love to support Paddock and be partisan, but like you have to be unbiased in that. Like, it was insane.
So what that 9-2 result means is the promotion race moves on to Tuesday, which for most good people who download the podcast the day it comes out, that is today. So if you're listening before the game tonight, then Paddock know that if we win tonight against Hertford, then we are promoted. If we draw, then it goes on until the final games of the season where Mersey Valley can still catch Paddock, but they would need to beat St Helens by 5 goals, I think. So we're not going to think that way. Paddock must feel confident ahead of a 9-2 win that they can finish the job tonight. Yeah, we really wish the game could have been the promotion decider on Saturday, but it wasn't to be. But we're in a really good position now, and I think we've had lots of chats on this podcast about, are we confident? Are we going to do it? And I think everybody now must think that it's looking very good. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to touch on some other football this weekend because it's been one of the best weekends in the club's history. Our under-16s both won their cup finals Sunday afternoon in glorious Manchester sunshine, which makes it even more unique and special. Yeah, big shout out to those sides. I did watch the second game. I believe that's the under-16 Blacks, where it was a hell of a game. There were 2 red cards, a penalty save, 2 late goals. Yeah, it was genuinely a good watch as well. Some really good goals in that game. And some of the players we will have known from the first team as well, such as Akifa, who had a really good game and scored the winner towards the end. Stu, did you manage to catch that one?
No, that was the Reds in the afternoon. So I had other commitments that I couldn't get out of. So I had a bit of family time. So I went to the Blacks in the morning. The Stretford Paddock Blacks played in their cup final, and they played a really, really good game. Some standout performances from players, and I know that we're going to have Gibbo on the podcast in the coming week or so, aren't we? So I know I don't want to go into too much detail, but they played the socks off the lads. They weren't necessarily clicking in the first half. Could have done a little bit more in midfield, and then the halftime team talk by Gibbo seemed to do the trick, and the lads went out and really put in the press and worked hard for each other, importantly, and come away with the cup. And I could talk more about the cup final, but there's going to be more time for that, isn't there, on another podcast?
Yeah, I've reached out to Ryan Gibbo, and asked him if he'll come on next week. So fingers crossed we can find a convenient time for everybody to catch up with him, and we'll go over this in a lot more detail. Steve Harris was at the afternoon game, and he wanted to give a shout out to Lenny, the goalkeeper, and he said, and I quote, "Goalkeeper Lenny's performance in the final was as good as I've seen from any player all season," which is high praise indeed if you know how many games Steve Harris goes to in a typical season. So yeah, like I said, he did save a penalty. He made a couple of very last gasp saves as well towards the end when Curzon Ashton pulled it back to 3-2. But I mean, to win the county FA Cup is a serious honour, and for both sides to come away with trophies, yeah, a very proud moment. Yeah, I think the future's looking bright for the club.
Before we move on then, Chris, I tell you what I loved is that one club feeling. We've got it on our big banner, and we turn up on Sunday morning. There's people who go watch the first every week who turned up to the under-16s. The banners are up, making it look like a home stadium. The cameras are there, of course. There's people on VO or Twitch watching along. So if you are a Paddock footballer of any age group, you are part of this club, and we're passionate about obviously making you feel part of this club. Yeah, I just wanted to add that in, Chris.
Actually, Stu, you've just given me a perfect bridge onto this final topic that I wanted to discuss, because when the first team get a result, I normally message Steve and just ask him if he could send me a couple of minutes of his thoughts on the game so I can share it with the members. I did that this week, and Steve sent me, I'm not exaggerating here, an 11-minute soliloquy, a eulogy, I don't know what you want to call it, but he gave an 11-minute speech about the club, the Lim game, the under-16s, his plans for the future, the members, his ambitions, and I don't know if I can play all of it because it's just so much and you guys will need more coffees, but I'm going to try and include as much of this as I can here to share the news. So give a listen to Steve's thoughts. As members, I'm sure you'll be very interested in what he has to say.
Sunday morning, the club's first ever trophy with under-16 Blacks and the under-16s Reds doubled that number by tea time yesterday, and genuine pride felt at what we're doing. There's lads in both of those teams, the Blacks and the Reds, that will be part, and they were told yesterday, they will be part of my pre-season plans from June onwards, and I expect them to report to training for the first team. And the conveyor belt has started. You know, there's a young striker in the under-16s Blacks team. He's playing a year up at the moment. He's massive. He's going to grow into an enormous centre forward, and he's got centre forward tendencies way beyond his years. And he's a big lad, but he doesn't use his size. And I can see another gear coming out of him if we can get him on the weights and get him to start using his size. He is a quintessential non-league centre forward. Plays with his back to goal. Very intelligent. Dominated that final for the Blacks team on Sunday morning. And he can't even be eligible for first team until January 2026. But I'm going to have Michael Olatunji kick the shit out of him for 6-7 months. And he will be ready. And he will be a real problem once we unleash him on what hopefully will be Cheshire League One next year. But all of these lads, you know, we've debuted 6 or 7 16-year-olds, under 16 players this season. Not one of them has let us down. And they got integrated from June last year, where they shone in the trial. And I thought, these lads look really good, but I can't quite place how good they are because they're playing against 16-year-olds. So I invited them down to first team training, and they continued to shine. There was rounding off of their game in certain areas that needed to be made, and we did that. And then when we started giving debuts out, there was no debuts given out for a box tick. Lads have been earning debuts, and lads are in squads now ahead of what would be considered first team players. And that's not because we want to play 16-year-olds. It's because he's the right player that's signed on for the club to be selecting. That's only going to improve next year, or worsen depending on your status within the squad. And these lads are 16 years old. They've got 4 or 5 years before they should even really be considering wanting to be first choice, first team players. What we've got to do is hope that we continue their development. We don't just promote now. The second that whistle goes tonight, we'll have that semi-final to deal with, which I haven't got an update on. I think the hearing is on Thursday, I believe. The second that the whistle goes against Hartford, we'll switch attention to the semi-final. And the second that cup competition is concluded, it'll be all eyes on trying to get promoted again next season. Yes, we would like to win the league, but ultimately it's about promoting. And I think it's doable. You see a lot of teams end up in the top 3 or 4 of League One after they've promoted out of League Two. The Premier League is an entirely different proposition. I think if we were placed in League One now, I would expect us top 3 or 4 without any recruitment. If we were placed in the Premier League now, I would expect us to probably be bottom half. But we've got 12 months to worry about that, because we'll be there in 12 months. We'll be having this conversation again in 12 months where I say, right, now we are going to have to recruit or develop, or maybe, you know, the 21s, the resis, the 18s, the 16s have produced us another crop. But I think it's almost the start of a class of 25 this year, is what we've done. And I couldn't be prouder. We'll do an entire separate podcast, I guess, talking about the achievement of the under-16s. And I hope you got Gibbo on. I don't know who you've got on for it, but if you've not got Gibbo on, you've messed up, because he's been a fantastic addition to the club. Not just my coaching staff, but the club, obviously with his 16s. But we've gone through the full ringer of the emotions of a club in this past week. And yesterday, I got home after both the finals and just thought, you know what, very, very proud of what we've achieved here. And we're still on chapter 1. Because we don't have our own gaff. We don't have a women's team. We don't have a soccer tots. We don't have a full stack. We don't have coaches with a presence in all of the schools in Stretford. You don't walk around Stretford and can't move for Stretford Paddock training kit. You don't know every single primary school, secondary school. You know, I would like Stretford Paddock FC to be hosting the Trafford Schools Cup I want to completely embed this club into the community of Trafford. That's something that requires being done. But we will get there. 5 years, chapter 1. Maybe we draw a line under it at the end of this season with the promotion, with the under-16s, with the cup wins that they've delivered, and maybe that we deliver. And then we look ahead to chapter 2. But right now, very, very proud, very, very happy. Love the direction that the club is going in. Love the support that we've got worldwide. And we need to grow. I'm going to start banging the drum. 10,000 strong we need in terms of members. And I think if we get that, we'll get everything else that comes with it. But stay tuned. Chapter 2 is coming up very soon. I'll speak to you all tomorrow after we've done our job.
All right, so that was Steve's thoughts on pretty much anything Paddock. I'm sure you can agree it's all very insightful and real positive thoughts on the under-16s and the conveyor belt, as he calls it. So congratulations again to the 16s. Your hard work has definitely been noticed by us here on the podcast, but more importantly, the coaches and the officials and the staff at the club as well. So we're very, very proud of your achievements this weekend. Let's wrap it up then, guys. So tonight, Hertford, we're going to get promoted. Sausage roll party. Sadly, we won't have the Irish in town for it, but we know you'll be there in spirit. It's a shame we couldn't just kidnap you really and keep you around until Tuesday, because it guarantees a good win for the team.
I'd love to. If I had my way, if I had the annual leave days in work and I was going to be still getting paid, I would crash anywhere. So I'd happily do it. But unfortunately, that's not reality. But we can all dream.
I'm sure Notch would take you in. I know you've become very good friends the last few days.
I'd sleep on a floor. I wouldn't care less. I just need to be there for the sausage rolls. And was it? I'm trying to think. Who was it had the sausage roll outfit ready to go?
Steve Harris.
I can't remember. Yeah. Yes, that would have been iconic just to see that on the day. But anyways, hopefully next time.
I have seen it, guys. I have seen it. It is impressive.
He sent me a photo of the packet, but I'm sure he's got that hanging up now in his bedroom ready for the big game tonight. One last message about tonight's game. Liam cannot do the commentary, unfortunately, so it won't be streamed on Twitch, but it is still available on VO. So download the VO Live app, sign in, follow Stretford Paddock, and you can watch the whole game there. And of course, best of luck to the players. We know some of you listen to this, which we are grateful for. You've had a fantastic season. You deserve promotion. Leave it all out there tonight, guys, and go and get what you deserve, because you deserve to be playing in a higher league next year. Right, let's go then. Stu, any thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yep, just a little bit of a longer outro for me. Congratulations to both under-16s. You've done the club, your parents, your guardians, your carers, everyone proud, including yourselves and your teammates. So revel in that greatness for as long as you can. Congratulations on that. Good luck to the under-12s who have got 3 cup finals coming up. Go and do the business. Have fun and do Paddock and yourselves proud. And finally, up the Paddock.
Shane, any final thoughts from Dublin before we wrap it up?
I would second what Stuart has said, and the only thing I would add is that to the under-16s, you've won it, and the thing is, nobody can take that away from you. So it's something that no matter what happens, be proud of your achievements, and then use that as a springboard to work harder and hopefully get into the first team. And I'll be going over to see his play while we do the business. But to the under-12s, good luck, and then obviously to the guys tonight, go out, do the business, and then we can have our sausage roll party. We'll sort it out, we'll get it done, but give it a go, and up the Paddock as always.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Right, that is the end of episode 7. We will see you next week when hopefully we find some time to catch up with Gibbo. But that's it for this time. So it's goodbye from Stu.
Good evening. Thanks for listening, everybody. Up the Paddock.
And it's goodbye from Shane.
Bye-bye, guys. Thanks for listening, and always up the Paddock.
And goodbye from me, up the paddock.